Hello guys, Alexander here. This video will be about cinematic visual narrative and how I go about creating frames that I paint using color, light, composition, and shape. So hopefully you find this useful and can apply it to your own work. Okay, let's begin. In this frame, I chose to deal with the idea of heartbreak and what it means to me. The gray as a background feels like a lifeless beginning, a lifeless end, and starting the painting with pure black silhouette helps me guide the emotion, helps me keep it in a state of something lacking, let alone it helps me design the composition and silhouettes quite well. Compositionally, I want to keep it minimalistic, empty, yet trying to show elements that could suggest a memory. Losing someone, whether it's a breakup or that person has passed away, is just an awful feeling, and it takes a while for most of us to recover from it. So with that in mind, I try to instill the idea of past times in a subtle way, through the tablecloth, through a dying looking plant, and an uneaten plate of food, and of course something a little bit more subtle, a line used as a decorative element on the wall, but this line stretching out from this person's heart over to the other side into nothing. The color that she wears signifying a colder state, and the vase breaking that line to me solidifies the idea of a heartbreak visually. In this frame, I wanted to make sure the audience can hear the emptiness, they can hear the silence, they can hear the pin drop, and one way for me to do that is through the character's body language. The idea of the character looking like she is waiting or she is in thought puts us in her shoes, and we experience that quiet moment with them. This frame is about moving or moving out, whichever way you want to look at it. It's about venturing off into a new chapter in life. It's about venturing off into the unknown. This moment is about facing your anxiety and your fears when there is change in your life, unexpected change for that matter. With that in mind, I see this piece as starting with a blank slate. Something that looks blank, something that looks empty. Starting with a white, eggshell-like color and value, and going off of that, building up with more warm tones to find freshness and new light. The composition to me is about blank versus full, or simple versus complex, empty versus packed. And the character is crossing right in the middle of those two worlds. They are sort of in this limbo, and I want the light that is cast on them to feel like it's their guide. I want them looking into one of the boxes, whether they are unpacking or packing. I want them to look like they are discovering, like they are exploring or seeing something for the first time, even though it has been there their entire lives. To me, this is a higher key of a painting because I want there to be a juxtaposition to life outside of this room, life outside of these boxes. I want this to feel like a state of mind this character is in. I want the feeling to be something of an uncertainty, something that carries angst, and punching in darks on her pants or even the small holes that are in the boxes creates this subtle yet loud darkness, this void that perhaps lingers through the back of our minds.
So these thumbnails are exploration of the blocking that would tell a story about heartbreak. You wanna see which frame would suggest the character's feelings by trying different shapes, using the space, sizes, and the positions, exploring your thoughts on the arc of the character or where the story is going to be headed or where it came from should reflect with the composition. We should include the elements that make the story or that's part of the character, maybe a rose, pictures, window. These elements have to be incorporated that would ignite a feeling which reflects the character's emotion and story. So these sets of frames are all about moving out. And usually when someone moves out, they are attached with the home or feeling excited that there's a new chapter in their life. And I would play around with the composition and blocking using different shapes, placement, different sizes or scale, and space, or subjects and objects relative to space. These are all, again, telling a story, trying to portray the emotions of the character, what he or she's feeling or going through.
So these are do's and don'ts for myself that I keep in mind when I'm creating keyframes, cinematic keyframes. This is mainly for composition and what I try to avoid and what is okay to do. Really, in the no section, I just try to avoid sticking things smack in the center or on the center axis. This just makes the image feel a lot stiff. However, there are exceptions where you can do that, and you just have to design your shot around this being centered for a reason. I think someone like Wes Anderson or Stanley Kubrick, they have a lot of dead center shots. However, the surrounding environments is designed in such a way that there's subtle things that are a little bit off balance. So there is still a variety that's breaking through the image. Not everything is perfectly symmetrical. And in this center no example, I just I try to avoid even spaces through my composition, and also putting things right at the edge. If a character is walking in frame, I don't want him to be right at the edge. I kind of want him to be already in, like this here. And also things coming in or pointing out at the corners. I think this is it. It breaks immersion for me personally. I mean, I'm sure there's things you can do to make this work, but I'd rather have these compositional directions not be pointing towards or coming in from the corner, but slightly off to the side. it just comes off a bit more naturalistic that way. And under the okays, that's just the example of keeping things not centered, but still sort of in center frame. So it becomes naturalistic, yet still immersive. We're still capturing the world around these characters or shapes, whatever it is. And with this, it's breaking up the spaces, the negative spaces. Nothing is even in the shapes here. This head and shoulders is bigger, and it can be in the foreground, and this one is a bit smaller, so it's a bit in the background. So I'm constantly thinking about breaking that up and still not keeping it, dead center. As well as here, if this character is entering frame, he's just entering, I would prefer to show the image that he's already sort of entered frame, as opposed to in the midst of entering frame. And again, thinking about big versus small, and where I'm placing the other character, how I'm using the rest of this frame to tell my story. So, I mean, these are just some of many examples that I keep in mind. There's plenty of great sources out there that people could check out to learn more about these things. There's a lot of commentaries from Roger Deakins or to Dean Cundy talking about how they compose shots. Those are cinematographers, by the way. And I highly suggest you guys to check them out.